This is actually the third Super Bowl that I'm covering. I mean, the first one that I did was Madonna, and that was so obvious. I mean, if you're a researcher of ancient civilizations, you would see that she was dressed like a Sumerian goddess, and then that same goddess morphed into Phoenicia, Babylonian, Egyptian. So you saw a throwback just based on her costume that she had on, and it just caused me to begin researching all the occult motifs on a deeper level, and then connect them to the spiritual realm. Basically, there seems to be a lack of insight of what's going on in the heavenly realms. I mean, Ephesians 6:12 tells us that we're not in a flesh and blood war, so we can't look at this as flesh and blood, and they're in heavenly places. So I got very interested in trying to understand that. And I don't have a whole lot of experience in the occult, so I'm kind of learning more each Super Bowl. So I had Madonna's, and I looked at the fact, I found out later after Super Bowl 47 with Beyonce about the stars, but I actually regressed back to the Super Bowl with Madonna, and I saw the same alignment over it. So I kind of realized what was happening, that the ritual is actually in conjunction with the star pattern that was the Silver Gate. I think it's really key to understand, if the Silver Gate wasn't there, it would just be another constellation. It really wouldn't have any credence, but the credence comes from the fact that the ancient people revered the Silver Gate as the exit to heaven, how to get I don't want to say fallen angels per se, but gods, or that's what they called them. They said the gods would exit the Silver Gate. So I realized that was over there for Madonna's performance later, but you didn't have to be Batman to understand all the symbols that you were seeing that were steeped in the occult into pagan civilizations. And I basically just looked at everything that she did, and I wrote a story on it, because I saw, as I was learning as I was going, I saw, and I had to educate myself on runes. And so what Madonna had inscribed, and which she blocked out the rest of the letters in the beginning, so you'd have to focus on this particular rune. And it was the 23rd rune, and it's called Dagaz. And what you're doing is you're actually evoking that energy from the spirit realm into our plane. And then I finally figured out that once we see things, the human mind is amazing. The subconscious of the human mind is like the ultimate DVR. I mean, that's why people, when they go into to see a hypnotist, they can go back in time and like, okay, you're 8 years old, what's happening? And you're able to pull it out. What do you see? And people can tell you, you can tell yourself everything that happened then through your subconscious. So anyway, back to the rune on the chair, that's what really drove me, because I said that was very important that 23rd rune was on that chair, and she made a point of presenting it to us almost like you're at a car dealership and there's a lady in a provocative outfit, and she says, look at this new car, wow. And that's what she was really doing. So I was like, why was it so important for us to see this symbol? And then when you realize that there's energies being evoked from the stars above, that this ritual is really about the manipulation of energy, but the question is why? And that's what the Silver Gate tells you, that it's the exit of the heavens. So something is actually coming out. Are you following me on that?
Yeah, I am. In fact, folks, if you want to read the article that Michael Arevna is referencing, just go to revelationnow.net, and of course it does have a video with it. Michael, I'll just be candid with you, I did not get a chance to look at the video, but Super Bowl 48, the stars, and Bruno Mars. What you just said there, gods, by the way, small g, you're talking about occult ritualistic rituals. We know that the Illuminati, we know that the Luciferians are heavily involved in the occult. We know that Luciferian agenda is behind the New World Order global governance, which, and a lot of talk show hosts will talk about the emergence of the New World Order, the global governance, but never say a word about the Luciferian agenda, about the or never discuss the meat and potatoes of the belief system behind it. So what you're saying here, and just so I'm getting this too, it's the stadium. Well, let's go back to the last Super Bowl, Super Bowl 47, where it was, or who was that? Madonna, right? Or I'm sorry, who did last?
47 was Beyonce. 46 was
Beyonce.
Madonna.
Okay, but last year, the Mercedes-Benz, Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, built upon a ley line and harnesses the energies of the stadium. And for those people who don't know what ley lines are, they're Michael, what they're electromagnetic lines that run throughout the earth. I don't want to get into. I guess I don't want to preempt you here with your discussion. But what you're saying, if I'm hearing this correctly, is that there will be portals, gates, whatever you want to call them, over or consistent with, concurrent with, perhaps Super Bowl 48. Is that kind of like a?
Yeah,
I
mean that's absolutely it. But I kind of related it to Matthew 18:18, and I look at this as them implementing a principle that Jesus told us about, and it's kind of like a binding and loosing spell, because he says, "Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." And I see that in the relationship of the symbols, basically. So they have to symbolize what they're interacting with. So that's why we saw in Beyonce's Super Bowl performance, we saw the bull, Taurus the bull. At the very beginning of her performance, they actually had a bull light up in fire. And at that same moment in time, Taurus, which is part of the Silver Gate, was aligned with the stadium. So they have to, it's almost like talking to it somehow through their ritual. And she also dance posed on the bull's eye. And then around the bull's eye, you could see the constellation marker. It looks like the constellation of Taurus. And she had lots of images of Taurus throughout the performance, but you have to slow it down, because unlike the Madonna Super Bowl, they sped things up. They sped up the symbols so fast. Like if you didn't see the fire image in the very beginning, it probably lasted like 1 second. So you had 1 second to consciously register it, but you did register it subconsciously. You did see it. So I think that it's important.
You captured
that
frame.
Oh yeah, I sure did.
Okay, I see that now. Folks, if you scroll down on revelationnow.net on this website, below the video, there is a screen capture of the fiery bull. And you're right. Okay, you're right. It is just, boy, if you don't watch, you'll miss it. Go ahead, Michael.
So it's very important that the crowd is there. I think this almost is very similar to the walls of Jericho, when the people had to be quiet for 7 days and march around the wall, and then at that same moment in time, they all said a sacred word or something, and the walls fell. So there's a sonic element to this, and that's why they needed, this is a mega ritual what's going on, and they need all the people there, and they need us to see these symbols too. We're participating in it just by looking. That's why in the ancient times, if people knew a witch was there, even if you watch movies, people would just take their kids and run. It's a witch, run. And people didn't want to interact with the witch or even see the witch, because there was a little bit of common sense in the ancient times, like just don't even get involved in it, because nothing good is going to come out of it. So when you see all these symbols that are being fired off, we're being targeted to record them in our subconscious.
Well, we're actually, and you said something when you were on our program before, and I felt that this didn't get enough play, so I'm going to just put this out there and we can keep it in the back of our minds. Even with the money, for example, we are taking part in we're always subjected to, and in fact taking part in rituals, their rituals, symbolism on money. We're forced to handle that medium of exchange. When we look at the Super Bowl, for example, the halftime displays, or even the Olympics, the ceremonies of the Olympics, we are being there's rituals being performed in which we're the spectators, and even perhaps a little bit more. So it's important to remember that. I think, kind of put that in the back of your mind when we're talking about this. But all in all, we have a lot of new listeners, Michael, since just tons of new listeners. So the importance of what we're seeing here are the Luciferians, the power brokers, the people behind this agenda. I just want to make sure everyone understands the importance of this, because we're just not talking about a Super Bowl, the halftime Super Bowl display that's meaningless. It has meaning, it has purpose, and we're all part of this ritualistic ceremony, or at least being made to be spectators, and from that they gain power, or attempt to gain power. Is that an accurate statement? I mean, it's a dual purpose. Number one, they're telling us what they're going to do ahead of time, and number two, they're actually compelling us by watching it, or if we watch it, we're actually being pulled into their rituals. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, and you made a very good point referencing the Kabbalah symbols that are on the new $100 bill. Because if you remember, one of the symbols that was on the new $100 bill was Jupiter and Saturn and Mars, and they're all part, I've learned, of it. And I have to go back and study what they mean for Madonna and for Beyonce, because like I said, I'm learning as I go, and I didn't look at all the planetary influences, and that's why when I saw Mars in Virgo next to the wheat for Super Bowl 48 that's coming up, that just made me think about Mars is the influence, the planetary influence of destruction, of war, and wheat is represented by the believers in the Bible. Jesus called us wheat and told many parables about wheat, and made many statements about wheat. You're like wheat. So when I saw Mars next to the wheat, it kind of tied in to that. But the Kabbalah symbols, for all those people that are going to be in the stadium, let's say there'll be over 70,000 plus people in the stadium. How many people are going to have that $100 bill cash in their pockets? They're going to be carrying around the symbol for these planets in their pocket. And what does that do when you have a talisman on your person? How does that affect your energy? When it comes down to it, we're basically energy. I mean, we're made of energy, and so this is you've influenced your energy by even having that on you. So that kind of everything seems to be slowly tying together, and so it's not a mistake. I mean, they put those Kabbalah symbols in the magic windows format in Independence Hall on the $100 bill. They did that with design and intention. And now we're seeing this mega ritual. And now the other Super Bowls didn't appear. I'm not really seeing anything in them. If you go back to 2009, 10, and 11, like 2009, you had Bruce Springsteen, and 2010 was The Who, and 2011 was that rap group. What are they called? I can't think of their name right now.
I don't know. I haven't
but
watched.
Will I Am is in it.
Okay.
They did it like a robot type appeal to it, which wasn't really I didn't see too much symbolism. But when you bring Madonna into it, I think that ushered in the age of witchcraft. Other researchers claim that she's like the head witch, like she's moved up the order so much. Plus the fact that you pull in Kabbalah into it again, she's associated with that too. So I think that ushered in the age of turning this into the ritual. I'm not sure that the other ones were rituals per se, because I didn't see any symbols. I didn't see the same type of representation. I mean, Bruce Springsteen didn't show up on stage dressed like a pharaoh, and the Who weren't dressed like Babylonians. They were just their regular, British, rocker selves that they normally are. Madonna put on a costume to ritualize it, and then Beyonce had on like a leather onesie with the Baphomet symbol embroidered on it. When you look away from it, you can actually see that's right. What's on there. So these are costumes that you have to put on when you ritualize stuff. Like if you watch that movie Eyes Wide Shut, you'll see that they put on robes and specific outfits, and the head wizard warlock was wearing a red robe. So this is all part of the occultism, the ritual of it. So, it was a good question. You're definitely onto something because all this is being woven together.